Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today, the artist whose name I believe is pronounced Tank 9101, except it's Tank with a C rather than a K, we're just going to call him Tank. I was tempted to call him Dave, but, well, Dave deserves the rest. Dave's a busy man, he can't be in every video, so Tank here is going to be taking the USS Annapolis out for a spin in this all Tier 10 domination battle here on the Tears of the Desert map, except it's not really all Tier 10, is it? Because now in World of Warships, even if you're Tier 10, you cannot be guaranteed to be top tier. Tank is driving one of those fancy ships with a star next to its name, the USS Annapolis. I believe Wargaming refer to these things as super ships. For some reason, Wargaming don't want to call these things Tier 11s, despite the fact that they've put them at where Tier 11 would be on the tech trees, after the Tier 10s that lead to them, so naturally the community just call them Tier 11s, because the community just doesn't have time for Wargaming's bullshit anymore. So what is it about these Tier 11s that makes them better than the Tier 10s that precede them? Well, honestly, not all of them are. Some of them are just different. The Yamagiri, for example, the Japanese Tier 11 super destroyer, one of which is present on the enemy team, is basically just a Japanese Tier 10 destroyer that gets to choose mid-battle which type of shimakaze torpedoes it wants to fire. So, I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that, but that basically sums it up. So, nah. The Annapolis, however, is a definite upgrade over the Tier 10 heavy cruiser upon which it is based, the already fearsome USS Des Moines, because the Annapolis basically is a USS Des Moines, except with an extra gun turret. And if having the Des Moines unload 9 8-inch armor-piercing shells at you every 5.5 seconds or less wasn't scary enough, the Annapolis can do the same, except it's firing 12 of them. They're the same guns, firing the same shells from the same turrets, except it's got 3 more guns in 1 more turret. There are some other differences. The Annapolis is a bigger, longer ship, and as such it has slightly worse stealth than the Des Moines, but honestly the difference is negligible. Also, the Des Moines AA is better. Even though the Des Moines is supposed to have some pretty strong AA, it's still not strong enough to make any kind of difference. And the only difference between the Des Moines and the Annapolis's AA is that the Des Moines has some short-range AA, which the Annapolis does not, in the shape of a whole bunch of completely ineffectual 20mm Oerlikons. So aside from the 1 extra gun turret, where's the incentive to get the Annapolis if you already have the Des Moines? Well, the enemy Des Moines over there that Tank has just unloaded at is about to find out. Yep, there it is. 46,000 damage. And not in one salvo, because that's the Annapolis's party piece. Simply having more guns than the already terrifying USS Des Moines is not enough for this ship. It also has the option of firing them in burst mode. And what the burst fire mode does is, assuming that your guns are already loaded before you activate it, and why would you activate it if they weren't, it reduces the reload of your 8-inch guns, all 12 of them, to 1 second, which means that over the course of the next 2 seconds, you're going to be unloading 36 8-inch shells at your target. There is a downside, however. I mean, you don't get that kind of firepower for free, because once you've activated that burst fire mode and hopefully bitch slapped somebody into the middle of next week, your guns go on a 40-second reload cooldown. Not the burst fire on a 40-second reload, your guns are on a 40-second reload. And just for the sake of reference, yes, that is the same reload as the USS Vermont's 18-inch guns. However, this can be affected by any reload modifications that you have. So, for example, Tank here only has to wait 35 seconds to fire his guns again after he's activated the burst fire mode. It's still a long reload, so you really shouldn't be using that burst fire unless you're about to kill whatever it is you're shooting at, or you're real confident that nobody's going to be able to fire back at you. It is a highly situational mechanic, because you will suffer a net DPS loss every time you use it. I mean, think about it. The Des Moines and the Annapolis has a base 5.5 second reload. Tank's gotten his reload down to 4.5 seconds. So again, assuming the guns are loaded and ready to go, he can put 36 shots in the air in 2 seconds using the burst fire mode, but then has to sit on his ass for 35 seconds with the reload mods that he has installed before he can send another 12 shots downrange. Without using the burst fire mode, he can put the same 36 shots in the air in only 9 seconds, and then he only has to wait 4.5 seconds for each consecutive salvo of 12 shots. So it's a definite DPS loss if you use the burst fire mode. Situationally, however, sometimes you're not going to get to keep pumping shots into a target. Maybe it's going to start angling. Maybe it's about to go out of line of sight behind an island. Maybe you only have 5 seconds left on your radar and you're going to lose sight of it. Or maybe it's swinging its guns around and it's about to blow you out of existence. Maybe it's a Shimakaze that's just come around the corner of an island and is about to send you a high-speed express delivery of 15 torpedoes. In circumstances like that, you'll be very glad that you have the ability to put 36 shots downrange in the 2 seconds it's going to take for that Shimakaze to swing his torpedo tubes around. In all other circumstances, however, you're just better off not using it. It's the kind of thing that you keep in your back pocket for when you really, really need it, or for when you can leverage the most damage out of it, and you're confident that in the remaining 35 to 40 seconds that it's going to take you to reload, you're not going to die. And most of the time, you're probably not going to need it. Because at the end of the day, you are still a Des Moines, just with 3 extra guns. Yep, that's right. The game is now in a state where I can literally say a sentence like, "You're just a Des Moines, but with 3 extra guns," without bursting out laughing. So how do you get your hands on one of these things? Well, when the Annapolis and other super ships were announced, this was a very valid question, because people were concerned, especially in the light of things like the Tier 10 premium version of the Yamato going on sale to anybody who had deep enough pockets. People were concerned that they were suddenly going to start seeing complete noobs to the game cruising around in Tier 10 battles in Tier 11 brand new super ships that they just thrown their wallets at on the premium shop. Wargaming were very quick to reassure everybody that this was not going to be the case. The Annapolis, for example, can only be purchased for a ridiculous amount of credits, by the way, more on that later, if you already own the Des Moines. So you have to have Tier 10 ships in order to unlock the Tier 11 super ships that lead on from them. Oh, that looked like it hurt. Yes. Oh, this could be dangerous. Time to start angling away, methinks. Wow. That was without using the burst fire mode, by the way. That's just what this ship does. Like I said, it's a Des Moines, but with an extra gun turret. I mean, Tank did take a ferocious beating in that engagement. He just lost 40,000 health and his heal's on cooldown. And now he's got a Conqueror shooting at him, which is always scary when you're in a cruiser, but he's managed to go undetected, and is probably, if he has any sense, going to remain undetected if he has anything to say about it, while he waits for that heal to come back off cooldown. But he just went in a 2-on-1 against another Annapolis and a Minotaur, and he won, getting himself a double strike into the process. But anyway, while he's licking his wounds, back to the topic at hand. So with the community reassured that noobs wouldn't be able to get these ships, you would have to at least have unlocked the Tier 10 that preceded them in the tech tree, and then spend a whopping amount of credits in order to actually get one of these things. I think you can research them for like 1 experience, but whereas a regular Tier 10 will set you back the not inconsiderable sum of usually more than 20 million credits, I think the cheapest you can get one of these Tier 11 super ships for is something like 46 million credits. So, with Wargaming's reassurances that you would at least, in theory, know how to play the game before getting your hands on one of these things, because you would have had to have unlocked the Tier 10 that preceded it. And then, of course, there's also the fact that these things cost a colossal amount of credits. Way more credits than anybody new to the game should have access to, although it's not difficult to get credits in World of Warships. You can buy them direct from the premium shop. But still, there were a couple of bars to entry there, which meant that only veteran players should be playing these ships. And then less than a month later, Wargaming put them up for sale in a lighthouse auction. Ladies and gentlemen, your bids please. because the only surefire way of knowing whether or not Wargaming are lying to you is to just check whether or not their lips are moving. Now, I'm not saying that the community manager who assured everybody that you absolutely definitely 100% guaranteed no shit genned it would never be able to get these ships simply by throwing money at them was lying. I'm sure that that community manager thought they were telling the truth at the time. But, well, let's just say this wouldn't be the first time that Wargaming's management have stood aside and quite happily watched members of the community team throw themselves under the bus, and I'm pretty sure it isn't going to be the last time either. Oh, there goes the burst fire. Yeah, this is a really bad day to be a conqueror. And of course, well as the Kraken Unleashed and 252,000 damage, with the Adrenaline Rush skill active, he's only on a 25-second cooldown now, not 40. Wow. This ship. It is a really good ship. I mean, of course it is. It's a Des Moines. Just with an extra turret. There's that word again. Just. Now, I can't say that with a straight face anymore. So what is the downside of the Annapolis and other super ships like it? Because, I mean, there has to be a downside, right? Regardless of how you got your hands on it, whether or not you just threw money at a lighthouse auction, or you did it the way that everybody was assured would be the only way to get them, grind out a tier 10, and then hand over an absurd amount of credits. Well, there is actually a downside. You see, Wargaming managed to figure out a way of putting the World of Tanks tier 10 economy into World of Warships. You know, where it doesn't matter how well you do, you're never going to make a profit running tier 10 tanks in World of Tanks, which you have previously, at least up until now, been able to do, and still can do when running tier 10 ships in World of Warships. But you're never going to make a profit running one of these things unless you do exceptionally well. Oh, reload the AP, cue the burst fire. No, too slow. Team reached 1,000 points, game over. So, Kraken Unleashed, 250,000 damage done, and 713, nearly 714,000 credits earned. Tank is running a credit booster, by the way, a 40% credit booster. And he did more than 3,000 base experience. He must have earned a fortune from this game, right? Yeah, not so much. These ships are basically credit sinks. They cost a colossal amount of credits to buy, and they cost a colossal amount of credits to run. That 713,000 credits on the post-battle results screen is gross credits earned. It is not profit. It includes the 40% credit booster that he was running for that battle, but it does not include things like ammunition resupply and post-battle service costs. You can see all of that on the credits and XP tab, where we can see a very, very different picture indeed. Even with a 40% credit booster, he only made 311,000 credits in profit. And he only made that because he was running a premium account. Without the benefit of a premium account, that 250,000 damage game with 5 kills and a double strike would only have been worth 5,177 credits. Welcome to the World of Tanks tier 10 economy, except in World of Warships. And honestly, I think the game was probably sorely in need of some sort of credit sink, and that's definitely what these tier 11 super ships are. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it is definitely a thing, and if you're thinking about getting one of these ships, it's definitely a thing that you should be aware of, because if you play a couple of games in these things and you don't do as well as this, you're going to run out of credits real fast. Nevertheless, well done to Tank 9101 for a well-played game in, let's face it, what is a very, very good ship. Honestly, the enemy team never stood a chance. I haven't seen a slaughter like that in, well, not since the last time I played World of Warships. But I digress. Well done to Tank. Not only did he do 250,000 damage and sink 5 ships, he also managed to turn a profit while doing so in a tier 11 super ship, although it did require 252,000 damage done, a 40% credit booster, and a premium account. But hey, don't let anybody tell you that you can't run a profit in one of these tier 11 super ships. You absolutely can. You've just seen the proof. It's just really, really hard. Anyway, congratulations to Tank. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.